Hello, writers. I am Lee Jessup, career coach for emerging and professional screenwriters, as well as business of screenwriting, adjunct professor at the David Lynch Grad Program for Cinematic Studies. Now, anytime I take on a new coaching client, which happens all the time, I will send said new client a questionnaire with lots and lots of questions that will help me learn about them. Everything from their general bio to how they started writing, what brought them to me. And one of those questions is, what is your writing process? Now, you'll be surprised how often the answer ranges between, I'm not really sure, to, what do you mean? I'm not quite sure that I understand that question. Because your process is your business practice for development, I wanted to talk about this because at the end of the day, every writer has to have that process. And the only way to know the process that works for them is to have developed using said process or elements of said process. Now, I say all that with two caveats. The first of which is, if you go into a writer's room, if you are so lucky as to get staffed on a working TV show where you are in a writer's room, your process is going to go right out the window. You're going to have to adjust to the process of the room. And that's where you have to be agile. And two, screenwriting process can and often does change over time as you evolve the way that you do things. The things that worked for you before may not work again, but you want to have that process in place so you have something to lean back on, to go back to, should you need it. And with that in mind, I wanted to talk through some level of steps of a process so that you guys understand what it should look like. I'm sure many of you have that already in place, but maybe there's a step you're missing. I did want to speak to that because it's important to not only know what works for you, but also understand how to speak to it as you develop material, because it becomes very individual. So I'm a big fan of brainstorming. I spoke before about development tools, about the importance of discovery when you are developing a new idea. And if there's one criticism that I have of early career writers is that often they will go to pages all too quickly. Before you go to pages, whether you're writing a pilot or you're writing a feature, I really encourage writers to spend some time in discovery, really digging into the crux of the idea. Obviously, if you're developing a TV pilot, you have to understand what is the show that you're developing before you really look at the starting point for that story. If it's a feature, we really want to understand the architecture that lies beneath it. Different writers will do that differently. I encourage writers who don't have those tools to look at classes like the script anatomy, feature development class, or TV development class. I love books by Michael Tabb, Pre-Writing Your Screenplay, or Cam Miller's The Hero Succeed on the TV front. But spending some time working on that infrastructure is going to be incredibly important so that you understand what it is that you're building rather than just jumping into pages, into scenes, into sequences. From there, we're going to want to go into some form of beats. Some writers will write treatments first or scriptments. This can really go whichever way works for you. Scriptment, treatment, outline. But we want, again, this is where we look at the infrastructure of a script, the architecture of a script, and how to best put it together before you go into those pages and can get lost in those pages. Accordingly, those beats, those outlines, those treatments, whether you love Save the Cat beats or do a traditional outline or go into a really robust outline treatment combo, we want to have that step in place because guess what? When you get brought on to do open writing assignments, sometimes the people that you're working with can say, okay, before you go to pages, we want to see a treatment, we want to see an outline. You want to have that process down because you've done it before. And the only way to have that process down is to have done it before. I encourage you to get notes on treatment, outline, scriptment, to really vet the material at 30,000 feet rather than get in the script and figure it out in there. Knowing how to work that process is incredibly important. From there, we go ultimately to draft. Some writers will do a vomit draft. Other writers will spend so much time in an outline that ultimately by the time they go to script, they have a 40-page outline and really are just kind of peppering in dialogue and getting to know the characters. Again, totally up to you. We just want you to understand how you work best. Screenwriting is traditionally an iterative process. It is about going, vetting, getting notes. Know who you get notes from. Do you have writer friends that help you push the work? Do you have a coverage service that you love, or a reader like Andrew Hilton's Screenplay Mechanic that I'm a huge fan of that you go to for notes? You always want to get notes for every draft. So before it is done, before it goes out, even if you're like, I made all the changes, you want to make sure that those changes are landing. Be ready to go multiple drafts, vetting the screenplay. So wash, rinse, repeat, write, vet, apply notes, go through the notes, apply some more, get it back out to coverage. What is that process and how does it work for you? Are you somebody that needs many drafts to really get the work to where it needs to go? Nothing wrong with that, but just know that that is your process. Are you somebody that gets to a really evolved draft quickly because you've done so much heavy lifting on your scriptment? Just know what is that process that helps you get a script there. I've certainly encouraged writers to keep journals, journaling the writing process to see what works for them and what doesn't. It's going to be specifically your process. Don't try to copy somebody else's process to a T, but really look at what works for you and where are you most efficient and most excited about the writing, what allows you to maintain the balance of organization, architecture, and productivity, creativity, spontaneity. So you have to figure all of that out, but really know what works for you, where is good for you to go for notes, what is the most efficient thing for you to do. Do you like to go out for 2 sets of notes at a time? Is there a consultant you like to work with? Is there a writer friend who is going to be willing to mentor you that really worked for you before? Really think about that process because it's up to you to understand it and then understand how to put it to work when you get jobs, when you get writing assignments, when you start on your next script, in order to make the writing of that script the most productive process that you can. All right, you guys, I hope you found this helpful. As always, subscribe for more, and hopefully we'll connect soon. Bye.